Attention, fans of Unfinished Business Television, we're thrilled to announce our proud partnership with Super 7, the ultimate destination for collectors and pop culture enthusiasts alike. Visit super74.com/AJEPYX today. Use promo code AJEPYX, and let's keep the good times rolling here at Unfinished Business Television.
You're in the big time, kid.
Means changes.
You just hit me with a dead frog. Jerk.
In Todd Howard's case...
Feeling a little furry in there, buddy? I don't howl.
Big changes.
You don't see any fangs, do ya? Ow! Watch me now!
Jason Bateman is Teen Wolf 2.
Strange boy.
Now playing at a selected theater near you. Check your local listings.
Hey there, folks. Welcome back. I am your host, Jeff Galashaw, otherwise known as Unfinished B2 on Instagram. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
There are 3 words that I live by. Never get less than 12 hours of sleep. Never play cards with a guy that's got the same first name as a city. Never go near a lady who's got a tattoo of a dagger on her body. Now, if you stick with that, everything else is cream cheese.
Yes, and with that, we lead you down into the deep dive. And this episode, we are going to talk about a film from 1987 that's a sequel to a cult comedy, you could say, that sprung its lead or helped pave the lead's way to stardom. And of course, he was on a popular television show at the time, too. One of our favorites, Michael J. Fox. So why not, when you make a sequel, go with the guy who's on the Hogan Family? In his first starring role, Jason Bateman stars in, if you don't know by now, you should, Teen Wolf 2. I guess there was a Teen Wolf phenomenon or popularity, and they decided, you know what? Let's make a sequel. And we'll get, I don't even know his name from the show. I know it was Hogan was his last name. And
Was it David?
David Hogan. Yes. The one who took over for Valerie with Sandy Duncan. Teen Wolf 2. The title says it all, except it takes place in college. It has this character of Styles from the first film, only I guess Jerry Levine was busy, so they got Stuart Fratkin to play Styles. But Chubby returns. Paul Sand returns. And to throw in for good measure, they have John Astin as the evil dean, because we need an old white guy in this movie. And in the strangest amount of casting, this is where I have my Mandela effect. Kim Darby as the professor, who I could have sworn was Lindsay Krause. The hairdo, all these years, I thought Lindsay Krause starred in this movie, and I saw it in theaters. And then when I was rewatching it, I'm like, oh my God, it's Kim Darby. So I'm like, for some odd reason, in my mind, I still see Lindsay Krause in the role. Also, you have James Hampton returning as Uncle. You have Estee Chandler also making her film debut as Nikki. You also have 2 women who are in almost every scene together, Beth Miller and Rachel Sharp. And Rachel Sharp, who plays Emily, was married to Luke Perry at the height of his fame. She's the one who, when everybody's like, oh, he married a fan. No, she was an actress, y'all. So don't believe that National Enquirer story. So, and they were married for 10 years. She looked way better in this movie than she deserved to. And also Kathleen Freeman, and this might be the last on-screen role for Michael Zorich. It's playing the minor role of the boxing team's I don't know if he's the co-coach. Is he the water boy? Is he just an assistant? Now, Andre, you picked this film. I know people, y'all thought it was me. Why did you pick it, and what is your history with this film?
I did not see either of the Teen Wolf movies in the theater because I was way too young, right? But I had watched the animated series that was on CBS, and that lasted about, I think, 2 seasons. And so I watched that on Saturday mornings as a kid. And of course, I was a big Back to the Future fan. So eventually I did see Teen Wolf on TBS sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, and remember loving it no differently. It was Michael J. Fox. He's playing a werewolf and he's a teenager. So I think I had passed by the box video of the Teen Wolf 2. And of course, I knew of Jason Bateman from the Hogan family / Valerie. And that too was something that I also saw on cable as well. And I definitely know I never liked it any more than I liked the first one. And for the simple
Okay.
reason of the fact that it's the same exact story as the original, just the setting is different, and that they did recast some of these characters. You mentioned the coach. They actually did recast the coach. So Paul Sampley's
Oh.
a here, but in the first movie, it was Jay Tarsis, the guy that created
Oh, okay.
Buffalo Bill. He was Dabney Coleman's best friend. So that was like the strangest thing, was to see all those cast changes going on, and the fact that they have, Jason Bateman being the cousin of Michael J. Fox. And they're friends in real life, still friends now, of course. Just the sister Justine was on Family Ties when they were trying to boost her career. So yeah, I mean, that was something that I guess they thought Bateman, who nearly took away silver spoons for Ricky Schroeder, playing the mischievous best friend, then getting his own show, It's Your Move, that only lasted a season. They thought this kid had the goods to be a big movie star. And this wasn't something he picked. It was his father, Kent, who was pushing his career and Justine's career and expecting that, hey, we just put him in a tentpole franchise. He'll guarantee he'll become the next Michael. That didn't happen,
No.
obviously.
No, it did not.
He was a
Mm.
heartthrob, but people weren't paying to see him in the box office, not for another 2 decades, when he actually had more control over his career. So, yeah, this movie came about because the company Atlantic Releasing Corp, they didn't have a lot of hit movies, right? Teen Wolf was a very small movie that cost literally nothing to make and was shot within a 2-week span before Michael J. Fox had to do the 3rd season of Family Ties. This was around the same time he didn't realize they were trying to get him for Back to the Future, so they were actually filming, or at least getting locations done for Back to the Future while Teen Wolf was shooting. He found out about it, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to do something like that one day," and then, sure enough, Eric Stoltz got fired. They brought him in,
Of
and
course. Mm.
the company that made Teen Wolf realized, wait, this movie has a good shot. It's a Spielberg production. So let's piggyback and let's put this out a month after Back to the Future. And that strategy obviously paid off. This movie made like $40 million in its month of release. And now they thought they had some goods. And then they went off and they made this animated series, which later I found out, which shocked me, they put Jason Bateman's character in the very last episode of the cartoon. So if it had gone on further, you would have been seeing him and Michael's characters more frequently together, and slightly different depiction, but that's a whole other story itself. You can find the episode on YouTube, by the way. So obviously, Michael J. Fox is now a huge, huge star. They want a sequel, but he doesn't want to put the werewolf makeup on again. And on top of that, he made a decision, with the exception of Secret of My Success, that he would only do dramas when he wasn't doing Family Ties. So they weren't going to get him back. They had to rewrite it with another character. And in this case, they said, well, let's just make it his cousin so we could keep the other characters in there, his father and Chubbs and Styles, which is weird because Stuart Fracken recently said in a podcast interview that he didn't consider himself to be the same Styles as the one in the original, that his name was different when the real name of Styles is different from the first movie to here, even though they mention in the film that he was his best friend in high school. So that shit doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. He's an actor. So, so yeah, they rewrite it to be his cousin. They bring in Jason Bateman, and the whole deal is that He knows of his cousin being a werewolf and how popular he was in high school. But that's not me. I'm not the wolf. I just want to be a veterinarian and just get on with my life. But he's on a scholarship to be a boxer for the boxing team. So they're expecting he's going to become the wolf at some point. And that's weird too, that the coach, who's a basketball coach, now gets hired to be a boxing coach. I don't get that, but whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
this point.
so the only thing about it that's different is that once they find out he's the wolf, they start bullying him before he actually starts to kick ass at boxing. And then the same stuff happens. Everybody gets alienated by him, and he realizes I'm messing up. He has to gain his confidence. He has to prove himself without turning into the wolf. And that's that. It's not funny. It's not as crude as the first one. They don't have, maybe except for one scene, they kind of pull away from sort of the sex romp jokes that the first one had. And the only thing that's really memorable about it is probably the soundtrack, because I do remember hearing like that "Who You Want to Be Today" song and "Send Me an Angel." I always
Oh,
associate that with this film, even though they were
wow.
not written for this movie.
Mhm.
Otherwise, this was a clear, cheap cash in that really did not do anything to further this along. Even Bateman hated putting on the makeup and refused to ever play this part again. And it went on ice till MTV decided to make it a serious TV show. And look, lo and behold, it capitalized on Twilight and it was a big hit. So that's Teen Wolf 2 in a nutshell for me. What was it for you?
I saw it in theaters.
Oh,
Um, but see, here's the weird thing. As a kid, I'm not gonna say I loved it, but I was entertained by it. And so it has that small wonder effect where when I was a kid, I was like, okay, this is okay. It's not good, but I was never a big Teen Wolf #1 fan. The only reason I even watched it was because Michael J. Fox was in it, and I was a huge fan of his. So Teen Wolf 2, I'm like, oh, Jason Bateman, oh, the kid from the Hogan family, let me watch it. And like you, after the movie, I loved the soundtrack. I used to rent it from the library so much because between this and Dirty Dancing, this is where you were getting your love of oldies music from.
mm,
Even though, like in the 80s, the 1950s were coming back in style. But, these soundtracks had songs like that. Even though I like the original version of, was it the whole musical sequence? It's
oh, Do You Love Me?
Yes, I like the original version. I hated the remake version of it that kind of
Yeah.
modernized it. Also, that's where the movie really loses you watching it today. It's already stupid. And then, okay, everybody, I don't understand this universe. Does everybody know werewolves exist? Because
Right.
people are shocked, but nobody's like, oh my God, there's nobody like, maybe we should kill it for scientific research. Everybody's just like, oh, there's a werewolf. And I'm just like, okay, y'all are very nonchalant about that. And okay, that college girl he was into, who was only seeking him for bio life, she is freaky because apparently her everything she does with his best friend. So it's threesomes galore. you know? Um, I feel like let me get the Mark Holton stole his costume from Pee Wee's Big Adventure
Yeah.
for
I think they were
Chubb's
trying to capitalize
character.
on that. Mhm.
Yeah, because I'm like, what was with that suit in the car? Who wears that even in the 80s? You look like a 50-year-old Hollywood producer in that outfit. All that was missing was a gold chain. Instead, they gave him an ascot. Um, this movie, man, like I said, watching it recently again, I'm just like, I could not wait for it to be over. I was like, "This is bad." The only thing I could say was like, "Wow, SD Chandler is way better looking than those other girls," except for Luke Perry's wife, who the only good decision made in this film was to have her in her underwear as often as possible. She's a ring girl at the end when they tell Styles to go away. She's the one who answers it in lingerie. I was like, "This is the best choice." And what is it with these Howard kids falling for girls with either a Southern accent or playing Southern characters in a play? It's
True.
that's where, again, I see that whole, this is nothing but Teen Wolf 1. And, where, again, the leading lady is better than, I guess, the trampy characters that he's in love with who are popular. No offense to Stuart Fratkin, I prefer Jerry Levine's
Me too.
styles. Chubby, Mark Holton, always great to see. I have some notes. Did you know there was supposed to be a third film
Yes.
with Alyssa Milano playing the new Teen Wolf as she tries to join the football team, and Scott was going to be her father if this movie had been a hit.
Yeah, I don't think that would have happened. But I've also heard some rumors too that when they couldn't, after this movie flopped, and they decided let's not do the wolf thing again, that they reworked it into Teen Witch. I don't know how true that is. That's been like an urban legend that Teen Witch was essentially the third film.
So we would have had Teen Wolf 3. That would be the more cult film than Teen Witch.
It's
I'm
the
just like,
same premise. She gets powers and then realizes she got to be herself if she wants the man.
well, I mean, would we get as many musical sequences? It's
Probably not.
and a rap sequence by the
Mm.
girl who has the crush. Look,
Not doing that today.
I'd rather watch Teen Witch than watch this again. That's how bad this film was.
Sadly, that's true.
And strangely, this is the only time I've ever seen really. I'll admit I haven't watched everything Kim Darby's in. This is the first time where she played a non-weirdo role for me, Like here, she played more of a not that's why I keep thinking it's Lindsay Krause. Because she's strong-willed, she's got that spiky hairdo that looks kind of like a box fade, you know. And then like anybody's gonna really watch this. She's a werewolf by the end, and
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Why couldn't I get her deal? Use bad CGI or whatever they used back then to make my eyes, and then give me a tail, a long old tail, you know." And I like that his uncle, who knows nothing about boxing, has to coach him through boxing.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was weird, and I can see why they want him to box as a wolf. He got more super strength, so he can knock out a person with one punch. And why boxing of all things if he's such a science nerd?
Apparently, I was reading that originally they were going to stick with basketball, but they realized, you know what, that we already did that. Let's just change it up. And I guess maybe Rocky 4 came out, so everybody was on the boxing kick.
Somewhere soccer's like, oh, so fuck us, right? Oh,
Yeah.
we got to wait till 2020 to become popular. I'm like, shoot, I'm like, there's like tons of sports they could have went to. Boxing, an interesting choice. Why not wrestling? Collegiate wrestling. You know,
Wrestling, you could have done football here if you really wanted to.
exactly. And save the girls for wrestling, and you would have had way bigger box office. But yeah, like I said, this movie's just. And even I don't usually badmouth films. Usually, there's something to like in each film, but even I'm like, this is bad, man. Like again, the musical scene. Was this whole planned? Or like, was he just supposed to lip sync and these girls just felt the soul so much they had this choreographed dance move? Because I was like, what? This makes no sense. And why is he lip syncing? This is a musical sequence.
Another
It's,
thing I never
mm,
liked about this movie is the fact that in the original, Styles is like all in on just pushing the werewolf to be as popular as he is, and then he kind of gets that rub. And so, okay, I get Chubbs being jealous because of the fact that they're just letting him fight all the time and then he doesn't get any fighting time. But Styles gets upset because he gets locked out of his dorm while uh Jason Bateman's shacking it up with two chicks. That
exactly. There was
that's
enough.
ju-
There
yeah,
was
there's stuff
enough
for
for
everybody.
style. Exactly. That shows he was selfish. He wasn't willing to share.
Who's the
So
real jerk now?
exactly. There is a defense video just waiting for Styles here. Like he should be upset. He missed out on hot ass, whichever one he would have let him have. Probably, the one in the lingerie, the hotter one, Luke Perry's ex. Well, now ex. But
Oh,
mm,
and then the other part that pisses me off watching it again the other day, him at the miniature golf course with the two chicks, and then the bad guy that he fights at the end shows up and just says a bunch of shit to get the girls on his side. Like, wait, what? What? Where did that made no sense to me? I get in the last one that he scared everybody when he tears off the dude's shirt and they're freaking out because how animalistic he gets. But he just says a bunch of insults and then they just come to his side. What?
Well, I guess, like, they didn't wanna make it too similar by having him attack him, but here was the weird thing. Why are college students playing miniature golf, even in the '80s?
Yeah.
Not no offense, miniature golf is fun, but I am also how old versus a college student? And B, how's the dean get now, is it the dean's car, or did he buy him the car?
The dean gave him the car, so I think that was his.
And no offense, I think the guy who plays for the other college as the boxer, he's gotta be pushing 40. And so,
Yeah.
he's like he's like Ice Cube in Higher Learning. This is a super duper senior. He should have graduated by now. At least in the first film, the asshole who he's facing on the basketball team at least looks like a teenager. This guy
Explain that the guy in the first one was left back several years.
oh, okay. He
I
still knew
think
how
so, I could be wrong.
he knew how to get them digs in though. So, but this guy just has like no offense to the actor, but his character has no personality. He looks like a reject from Top Gun.
Yeah.
He looks like he could be both of those girls' father. And like the twist should have been he's John Aston's son. You know,
He looks like a reject of Vernon Wells in Inner Space.
I can see that. He looks like a guy who did rape guys in prison. So I'm just saying. I don't know how I would know that, but he does. He has that
Every
look.
dog has its day.
He looks like a future racist cop who beats black people, It's particularly women. So, and I usually like Paul Sand and stuff. So it was like, oh, you deserve better. And how are you a coach and you're this nebbish? It's-
And, like, Jay Tarsus got, like, the best dialogue in the first one. They give this guy nothing.
they have him like basically imitate Woody Allen as a boxing coach. It's that's pretty much it. I would have rather them brought the theater teacher and have him teaching boxing or being the coach all of a sudden.
Scott Paul, who I'd love to have on the show, he's great.
But I'm just like, this movie is just and I know they didn't offer Rod Daniel a sequel, and he says he wouldn't have taken it anyway, and he's never seen it. My thing is this also shows a different level of directing. I didn't know that like Teen Wolf was filmed only in 2 weeks, but still, even though it's not the best film, it hits all the beats that it's supposed to,
Yeah.
and it has a warmth to it, even with some of the crude sex jokes. But this film just feels if it had been made in the '90s, this would have been a straight to video sequel. It has that type of feel. And
Yeah.
this is from somebody who paid to see it. Well, my dad paid to see it and I went with him. It was probably my choice. But yeah, this is sucky. Like this is with brain scan, kind of one some of the worst movies we have seen. I would have liked if Jason Bateman got a limp when he was human, and then as the wolf he didn't, because then you'd understand why he's the wolf, and not to mention also why when he's the wolf, why does it so much look like they just put a mask on for the face? Like they didn't have to paint it on. It just looks like he got a mask, and
He looks like Corey Feldman with that makeup on.
I don't know how Corey Feldman will feel about that. Um, well, his nose isn't as bulbous. um, but also, I mean, other than the fur all over his body. And I'm like, so you're a werewolf, so you're half man, half wolf. But you guys literally made it half man, half wolf. Whereas in most werewolf movies, they just turn into the wolf. And so this is sort of like in those Incredible Hulk comic books when he'd have the brain of Bruce Banner, but still have the strength of the Hulk. So I'm just like, and I'm sitting here trying to rationalize this. And I will say, I did watch Teen Wolf the series, and it is way better because, again, they play it more as a thriller and a
Right.
sci-fi television show. And it lives up to the title, even though when you're like on season 7 and you're like, they're still teens. It's- it's- and like nobody's noticing all this damn weird supernatural shit happening. But you like the show, so you're like, I'll go with it. It's like Buffy the Vampires. You're like, I'll go with this. It's because it's entertaining. Though I will say, for those who like it, LGBTQ plus, definitely very, I would say LGBTQ plus friendly.
Well, it's on
So
TV.
yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of man on man romance action. Not graphic. You're not like, oh, so he is a bottom. Nothing like that. But it's just like it. I give it credit because I have never seen a show that kind of leans into that territory without making it such a big deal. Like usually when they lean into that territory, that's what the whole show is about. You know, Here it was like, okay, yes, guess what? There are gay teens on the show, but more importantly, we got some werewolves and some werewolf hunters to deal with. You know, I like it when it's like that. I want that representation too, but I also want, hey, can we still go with a story here? And it's just not all about this. It's like, I'm already out. Now I have to come out as a werewolf, you know? But I would highly suggest that show. It's very different from either of these movies, though. It's because, they actually turn into, well, I guess they can be half breeds too, you know? But there is some full wolfing in there. And they play lacrosse. Um, and that's where Dylan O'Brien first found fate at playing Styles. So he prospered where Jerry Levine and Stuart Fratkin did not. So, um, do you have any final words or trivia you want to say about this film?
As far as I'm concerned, my love and affinity is for Teen Wolf 1. So much so that I own the Teen Wolf action figure from Super 7. It's not available now, but they got plenty of other toys you could buy right now. A lot of hip hop, a lot of rock characters that have action figures out, a lot of Godzilla paraphernalia. So use our promo code AJEPYX, 7%, and check out at the store. It helps us a lot to keep the show going and to boost up our viewership and also our quality.
Yes. And I will say about this movie, this film makes me appreciate Teen Wolf the series so much more and the cartoon series so
Yeah.
much more. Because like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Teen Wolf the first film, but at least it's still watchable. you know. So, it's not his fault, but you could see how this kind of held Jason Bateman back a little before becoming a big star. But it taught him how to be a character actor, more so than anything. So, and I know Stuart Fratkin also said in an interview that the original, they cut scenes that made it more original and more funny. And I'm like, I can't imagine anything could have saved this sinking ship. It's, I say make Teen Wolf 3 the return of Chubby. It's, where he has to mentor another young teen wolf after they're all hunted down. Mm. But and you could use it as an allegory, especially now that we've opened it up to LGBTQ plus characters, and which means don't bring Alyssa Milano in. But but that ends our business this week. But as you know, we always have unfinished business, especially down here in the deep dive. So please come back next time and please feel free to subscribe, to subscribe, follow, share, please. We need to spread the word, not about this film, but this show. And with that, we bid you adieu.
If you like this review, please be sure to like and hit subscribe to be alerted to new episodes in the future.